Good morning, students. Now we will continue with the lesson India Space Women. Now we shall learn about Nandini Harinath, Deputy Operations Director, Mars Orbiter Mission, ISRO. You can take page 56. Let's read the chapter. Nandini Harinath's first exposure to science was Star Trek on television. At that time, she never thought of becoming a space scientist. For her, ISRO just happened. The word exposure means the revelation of something very secret. And Star Trek means a popular sci-fi media franchise set in the future, primarily focusing on the adventures of the personnel of a space, many of an interstellar political federation of which Earth is a charter member. It was the first job I applied for and I got through. It's been 20 years now and there's no looking back. Being part of the Mars mission was the high point of her life. So here Nandini tells us that ISRO was her first job that she applied and she did it for 20 years and she never turned back or looked back and she did everything wholeheartedly. It was very important for India, not just for ISRO. It's put us on a different pedestal. Foreign countries are looking to us for collaboration, and the importance and attention we got was therefore justified. It was also the first time ISRO allowed the public to look at what was happening inside. We were on social media, we had our own Facebook page, and the world took notice. Here, the words pedestal means higher level, and collaboration means working together on project. So here she tells us that Mars mission was very important not only for the ISRO but also for India, and foreign countries are looking for this, for the collaboration. Here the word justified means having done for or marked by a good reason. And then she also tells us that this was the first time that the public got to see what was happening inside. Miss Harinath says she takes immense pride in Mangalyaan and is also thrilled to see its photograph on the new 2000 rupee note. But it was not an easy assignment and the working days were long. In the beginning, the scientists worked about 10 hours a day, but as the launch date came closer, it went up to 12 to 14 hours. Here in this line, Mrs. Harina tells us that she is extremely happy or feel proud of the work that she is doing, and she is also very thrilled to see its photograph on the new 2000 rupee note. And then here the word assignment means a task or piece of work allocated to someone as part of a job or course of study. It tells us that these assignments are not easy to do. And then earlier they used to have 10 hours of work, but now that the launch date came closer, they had to work for 12 to 14 hours. During the launch, I don't think we went home at all. We'd come in the morning, spend the day and the night, perhaps go home for a short while the next afternoon to eat and sleep for a few hours and come back. But for an important mission like Mangalyaan, which was time-bound, we needed to work like that. We spent many sleepless nights. We encountered lots of problems as we progressed, in the design as well as in the mission. But it was coming up with quick solutions and innovations that was there. Here the word launch means an event to celebrate or introduce something new. So during this time they went home very less. The word time-bound means requiring completion by a specific deadline or within a specific period of time. So this Mangalyaan mission has to be completed within a period of time. So they used to walk for hours there, and they had a sleepless night. They just go home, come back, and do the work. They got to spend very less time with their family. Now, here the word innovation means a new way of doing something. So, here Nandini tells us that they went through a lot of problems while they progressed, but they got a quick solution or a result. And the innovations. The innovation is a new way of doing something. To make matters worse, Miss Harinath's daughter's crucial school leaving exams fell right in the middle of the mission. Those few months were very demanding at work and at home. It looked like a race at the time. The word crucial means very important. So here she tells us that these few months were very demanding for her. Demanding means needing a lot of skill, patience, effort, etc. to do a piece of work. So it was very important for her to be at his work plus at his home, as her daughter's exam is also there during this time. So she felt like this time was like a race, as she had to look after her family and the work too. I did wake up at 4 a.m. with my daughter to give her company while she studied. But now we look back on that time with fondness. She did extremely well in her exams, scoring 100 in maths. Today, she's in medical school and is doing really well. So I think it was all worth the effort. Here she tells us that her daughter is doing well in medical school. The word fondness means affection or liking for someone or something. So she tells us that she used to wake up early in the morning to accompany her daughter with her studies, and now she looks back at those moments and feels happy. She says the Mars mission was a huge achievement, but that's the past. We need to look into the future to see what more we can do. We have the entire cosmic neighborhood waiting to be explored. There are so many planets, so it's time to venture out. Now, here the word venture means a risky or daring journey or undertaking. So, at the end, she tells us that there are so many planets, so it's time to venture out. So, students, here we come to the end of Nandini Harinath. Now, we will learn about Anuradha Tike. She is a retired Indian scientist and project director of the Indian Space Research Organization, Specialized Communication Satellites. She worked on the launches of the satellites GS-8012 and GS-8010. She was born on 30th April 1960 in Bengaluru. Now let's read the chapter. Anuradha Tike. For this most senior woman officer at ISRO, the sky is the limit. Miss Anuradha specializes in sending communication satellites into space that sit at least 36,000 kilometers from the center of the Earth. This distinguished scientist, who has worked with ISRO for the past 34 years, first thought about space when she was 9. So from this line we come to know that Anuradha is the most senior woman officer of ISRO. The word distinguished means important and respected by other people. The difference between she and the other scientists was that she thought about the space when she was only 9 years old. It was the Apollo launch when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon. We had no television in those days. I heard about it from my parents and teachers. It really ignited the imagination. I wrote a poem on a man landing on the moon in Kannada, my native language. We also come to know that she wrote a poem on Neil Armstrong, who landed on the moon. Her native language is Kannada. Considered a role model by other women scientists at ISRO, Miss Anuradha disagrees that women and science do not gel. I never liked subjects where I needed to remember a lot, and science looked logical to me. I don't believe that Indian girls think science is not meant for them. And I think maths is their favorite subject. Here the word gel means work well together. So this Anuradha does not agree with this idea that men and science do not work together, but it works really well, as she herself has proved it. And she also tells us that she never liked the subject that needs to be learned a lot or by hearted a lot, and that maths is the favorite subject of all the girls, Indian girls. When she joined ISRO in 1982, there were only a few women on the staff and even fewer in its engineering department. In my batch, 5 or 6 women engineers joined ISRO. We stood out and everyone knew us. Today, more than 20 to 25% of ISRO's 16,000 employees are women, and we no longer feel special, she laughs. So, from these lines, we come to know that she joined ISRO in 1982. And when she first joined, there were only 5 to 6 women of her batch who were engineers. Now there are 16,000 employees who are women, and so she feels no special now as there are many women scientists. Miss Anuradha dismisses the suggestion that her colleagues considered her an inspiration, but agrees that having more women in the workplace can be a motivation factor for other women. Once girls notice that there are lots of women in the space program, they'll also get motivated. Till think if she can do it, so can we. Here the word dismisses the suggestion means saying the suggestion is not important. So she says that being an inspiration is not an important thing, but it can be a motivating factor when there are many women working in the working place. The motivating factor means something that makes you want to do something, especially something that involves hard work or effort. So when the girls notices this, that women are working in the space, they will be motivated and they will do it. Although the number of women staff has been growing steadily at ISRO, it is still way below the halfway mark. That's because we are still carrying cultural loads on our backs, and many women think their priorities lie elsewhere at home, she says. Here the word cultural load means the influence of our belief. And the word priorities means things that you feel you must do before anything else. So here she says that though ISRO is growing, it is still to grow because we give more importance to the cultural loads. That is our belief of doing something before we do something else. Miss Anuradha's advice to women who want to be rocket scientists is simple. Make arrangements. Once I had made up my mind that I needed a purposeful career where my passion lay, I created a good setup at home. My husband and my parents-in-law were always cooperative, so I didn't have to worry much about my children. I owe my success to the arrangements I made. You have to give something to get something. That's life. So, when there was work to do, when I was needed at the office, I was here working with passion. And when there was an absolute need for me to be at home, I was there. So, in this last paragraph, Anuradha advises all those women who want to be a rocket scientists to make arrangements. She tells them that her success was due to her arrangements. She said that all her family members were very cooperative. And she also tells us that to get something, we need to give something. And that's life. So, students, that's all for today's class.